We are all here today to gather for our Hudson River Park Advisory Council first meeting of 2024. And I'd like a motion to start the meeting. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. The meeting has begun. Everybody should have received an agenda with an attendance form and the minutes that was emailed pretty much just a minute or so before we started our meeting. So, and as Tasha says, Happy New Year to all. I should not miss that. It's a miserable day outside. Hopefully our year is going to be a lot better than the weather is today. So please do take a moment to fill out the attendance form. I will go ahead and post it one more time and as a link because I know that not everybody gets it. It's in the chat. Just sent it again. So please do fill that out, and I'll put it in again for latecomers in about 5 to 10 minutes.
I'll pay attention to that too, Daniel, to support there.
Well, that sounds great. Well, thank you, Jeffrey. I don't know, the minutes are high-level summary. If anybody wants to take a deep dive, they can listen to the 2-hour recording that Robert provided for us. But if you have a moment, I'd like to get an approval on the minutes for the November 2023 meeting. There is a comment in there saying that we're going to approve the October minutes, but I can't find them. So for now, let's just deal with the November minutes.
And apologies because I can't find them either. That's what's taken me so long to log on, but I'll find them eventually.
It's a high-level summary, like I said, and all the details are included in the minutes at the bottom. If you click the link that takes you to the website with the recording of this meeting. Are there any objections to approving the minutes in this moment? Then I'd like to bring a vote. Does anybody disagree with the approval of the minutes? Do I have approval of the minutes? Do I have a motion for the approval of the minutes?
Motion to approve.
All right, I see two. The minutes from November, the high-level summary of the minutes of November 2023 are approved. And we are going to jump right into the Hudson River Park Trust report. So Robert, it's all yours.
Excellent. Thank you. Happy New Year, everyone. Good to see you. It's been a little bit, so I'm excited we can all get together. I'm sorry that it's not in person. I would like to share a drink with you guys, but we'll reschedule, I'm sure, sometime soon. There's a lot going on, so I'm going to prove pretty quickly, and I know we were hoping to try to keep this brief today. Since we last met at Gansevoort, the Bloomfield Street Promenade, that's along the north side, was completed. The paving was completed, and as was the dog run. The dog run surface, which will need to be finished in the spring, and they'll come back and do a couple days to finish the surface on top of it. I didn't bring a picture, but I promise in a future meeting we'll bring you a picture of the first dog, and it was a fabulously well-groomed poodle who obviously spends more time at a hairdresser than any of us. The public restrooms in the building are almost complete and should, I believe, are expected to open later this month. Similarly, the science playground, if you haven't seen it, down by Pier 26, the science playground is looking fabulous and is expected to open by the end of next week. We are not doing an opening celebration, but I'll let you guys all know when you can go down and see it and go explore. It is really going to be, I think, pretty iconic when it is all done. We've had some issues with fencing panels, which were delayed on some of our supply chain and fabrication issues. And right now we are waiting for everything to be completely installed, but some of the work is weather dependent, and as folks, or as we are here tonight, not cooperating. In October, late October, we did a community engagement meeting with Community Board 1 on the estuarium to look at some of the early sketches and ideas for the estuarium building. Right now, the design team is moving into schematic designs. This includes looking at things like the building, landscape, exhibit, water intake, mechanical systems. In particular, they're looking also at the exterior materials and fenestration of the windows and doors. And trying to figure out some of with some of the trickiest pieces on the site, the building appearance. We've really heard a lot about people wanting to make sure that it's an inviting space that people can move in and out of, and engaging. We also trying to make sure that it is year-round, can be interesting in some ways year-round. It is a work in progress. I'll be sure to share with you all our next update. For 29th Street to 44th Street, this is one of the unimproved areas of the park. As you know, we've been working on an RFP to bring on a design team who would then launch into the community design process. The selection committee is, I believe, hoping to bring a selection to our January board meeting for approval, after which we will onboard the team and then start looking at scheduling the first beginning of the community design process for that area of the park. We are really excited to get this one forward. As I said, it's one of the last unimproved area, or one of the unimproved areas of the park still, and should really help connect some of the great pieces that we have. On Pier 97, construction is continuing and is underway, but at the end of this of 2023, we were able to start providing limited public access to it. I say limited. It is a large portion of the pier folks can access. We were able to provide access, and that being our goal, provide the public open space, we are. It is the whole South Walk and the far western end, while the Belvedere Overlook and Playground remain, and we'll expect to open this spring. And work on the new restroom and maintenance building for it. I'm gonna keep moving on. Thank you for all who helped spread the word about our waste shark naming competition. I'd like to introduce you all to Gulp, who is one out. I will say my nephew's class actually apparently believes that it was rigged and that it was Trashly had secretly won, but I will put that aside for it. There was a whole second and third grade voting system.
Did you say Gulp?
Gulp.
G-U-L.
Yes.
Who came up with the name?
It was one of our submissions. So we had I believe over 300 people participated in it in our process. So it was a good one. I don't know quite how many of those were the second and third graders. There was apparently a campaign launched among their school. And so with that, we have some numbers for some of the end of the year pieces. In 2023, we had over 35,000 people and over 400 programs for our science education department with the River Project. Of that, over 3,000 participants were New York City school students from all 5 boroughs, including 50% of them from outside of Manhattan, and another 50 and somewhat an overlap, but also 50% of them were Title I status. That's free and low cost schools, and where we waive the fee for their attendance as part of our programming. We have had over 20,000 people at the Discovery Tank so far this year, not including all of our meetings, but with visitors as part of our guided galleries and some of it.
You mean in 2023, Mr. Atterbury, given that only 9 days into 2024, right?
Sorry. So we've also had a record number of people join us at both Pumpkin Smash and Release the Fishes. And I believe it was 1,700 people joined us at Pumpkin Smash, which was a true record for us. And then I want to bring up guest star Carrie Roble here, who's going to give us a very short little update on some of our research pieces that are going on. Carrie?
And just before we introduce Carrie, she's a superstar because she's been in the paper almost every day, I think. Always mentioned, and we see pictures of her, always at the front of our mind. So well done, Carrie.
Nice. I think it's simply a journalist cannot say no to going on a research vessel in the heart of Manhattan. So simply that we're doing, cool work, but thank you. We'll start this slide deck. Can everybody see it? Okay, great.
Yes, we can see it.
Excellent. So today we hosted our 3rd annual Sanctuary Science meeting. We went into a lot of depth about our accomplishments with regional experts, college and university professors, and environmental partners. I'm very happy to provide a more in-depth ESMP update for you all whenever you want it, but today I'm going to just focus on a couple of our highlights. So in 2023, we had our two fish ecology surveys up and running. We proudly caught 32 fish from 16 species. And we also analyzed this data with a professor from SUNY Stony Brook, Dr. Chen, in his lab. To complement this research, we initiated 3 years ago a network of environmental DNA. We're working with Norrie Point, DEC, Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory, and CURB, which is located at BZAC. We're sampling for fish species that we wouldn't catch in our traps and traditional methods. And at those 4 sites, we expanded to a 6-month term and had over
Sorry to
20
interrupt. Do you think you could stop sharing and then share again? Because some of us have seemed to lost the screen share. Sorry.
No problem. Let me try again. Oh, looks like it's going black when I go.
It was working when we could see your sort of slides, and then
Yeah, that's what I just noticed too. Maybe I'll just keep it in slide mode. It looks like a black screen on mine as well. Yeah. I'll keep it in slides and try to make it large. Let's see. 1 second. Also on just my tiny home computer. We're gonna pull that out again. Okay, even though it's small, maybe we'll roll with this.
got it.
Is that okay? All right. Great. And then with our waste shark and plastic pollution, we trialed a blue team event last year. It went really well. We're collecting about 5 pieces of plastic per minute, and we hope that this year we'll only be able to grow our collection and categorization of those plastics using this really exciting new tool. Regarding continuous water quality, our RICOS instruments were working super well this year, meaning we didn't have a lot of gaps. And so we have over 60,000 data points from our 2 instruments, and we supported that research also without deploying pendant loggers to collect temperature data at our fish survey sites. So just to run through a comparison of our Pier 84, Pier 25 temperature data alongside the Pier 98 SUNY data, we wanted to highlight that there was no significant difference between these temperatures. We were seeing great alignment, and there was only at Pier 26 a slightly lower temperature, but again, not significant.
And just Carrie, the importance of that is that you're basically saying there is no difference in the Con Ed's what Con Ed is adding to the water right there at 98.
Yeah, exactly. We wanted to overlay all of our temperature data to help show that, or to see if there was a difference, and we did not find a difference.
And Daniel, I just wanted just on this. I just want to be clear. So we're not studying, say, Con Ed specifically. There's like DEC, and there's a whole process for that. But the advisory council had asked us to try to look at temperature across the park and do some comparisons. So we put in these pendant loggers at certain sites to try to do a trial run to see if there was a significant enough difference or evidence that there may be differences that we would then want to try to set up a formal study for it to do. And I think what what we what we've seen so far is that there isn't really any meaningful difference along the way. It's something that we'll continue to talk about with our technical advisory committee, which advises on sort of our science and research. But as of right now, as you can see, it's pretty consistent across the park.
Was there a specific time of day or evening or when the temperatures were taken?
So this is continuous data. Our data is every 15 minutes and the SUNY data was every 5 minutes.
Wow, so that's pretty consistent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think that should make a lot of us feel safe. Thank you.
No problem. And we also continue to be a lab processing pathogen samples, part of the CWQT Citizen Water Quality Testing Program. We had 11 sites, 220 samples over 20 weeks this season. And we focused a lot on Gansevoort because some of the other New Jersey sites were not collecting this season, but it provided a lot of great data as we look to the opening of that site. And we're continuing to look towards participating and collecting at Gansevoort on the north side and on the south side of the peninsula. At the tide deck, we continue to collect benthics information using settlement plates in our tide pools. So that information is going to inform additional work at Gansevoort in our tide pools. And then, as you're well aware of, with our oyster and habitat enhancements, we completed our Tribeca corridor by deploying 48 additional structures in that area, which added an estimated total of 35 million oyster spat in Hudson River Park since 2021. So we're really happy with that. And then lastly, I just wanted to highlight that this work, of course, is not possible without the Hudson River Park River Project team, but also our many partners. So we invested a lot of resources this year into expanding our science partnerships and our visiting scholar program. We had projects that aligned with our ESMP goals in areas including eDNA and doing a more comprehensive meta-barcoding of what fish species and bacteria species actually are in our water. We collaborated on a toadfish acoustics and neurochemistry project that has been ongoing with the Furlano Lab from Brooklyn College for the last 3-4 years. We also continued working with Dr. Allison Fitzgerald and one of her students on a sessile organism, the influence that those organisms are having on recruitment of spat and juvenile oysters in the park. Dr. Matt Hare from Cornell University and their Polgar student, Henry, they helped us to look at oyster larval recruitment and dispersal throughout the park, doing both genomics and some modeling. Dr. Greenfield from the CUNY Graduate Center was looking at the impact of wet weather on our microbial communities in the park, so both plankton and bacteria. And Dr. Chester Zarnock from Baruch, he was able to help us to build a baseline for the salt marsh at Gansevoort Peninsula, really focusing on the nitrogen and carbon cycling there. And it was just really exciting to get that data in the first year of the salt marsh, and we'll be building off of that with our 4 years of funding from NOAA and the congressional money starting this upcoming season. And then just to run through a couple more examples, we were doing video work on fish and nectin in general with Dr. Chen from Stony Brook. We continued working with Rutgers University and Dr. Thomas Grothus. He was helping us to look at the impact of our habitat structures in the Tribeca area. And then also this year with the support of Polgar funding, Dr. Abel Navarro and his student Brandon, they were collecting water samples to see if these new methods of using fruit waste actually could help remediate wastewaters. So actually helping to reduce the presence of metals in wastewaters. Just in conclusion, we had many more partners. They actually represented more than 14 local colleges and universities, and 20 total partners collaborated with us this summer. And We're very excited that they can help to expand upon our expertise and help us dig into some of those top questions from our technical advisory council and regional partners. So this year, that growth was incredibly exciting, and we're hoping that 2024 helps us to only build off of these partnerships and keep making progress on our ESMP goals.
Terrific. Any questions for Carrie?
Tammy.
Tammy has
Sorry.
questions.
Yeah, I do. Sorry about that. Robert, it very much sounded like Newman. Just kidding. What I wanted to ask was, Carrie, very specifically for the waters, you seem to be studying the waters up by Gansevoort. I'm curious what kind of studies have been done in the waters down by the future estuarium. And very specifically, because of course, probably everywhere I'm going, is that we're still looking at the BPCA resiliency plans where they're looking to go in water north of Chambers Street. So it's very disconcerting. A lot of people have asked what kind of what's going on in the waters around there, where the oh gosh, what's the name of the dock area that's there, just south of Pier 25, and where all the buoys are, and basically everything to understand from an ecological point what's happening in the space for Hudson River Park in between Chambers Street and Pier 25.
Sure. So first off, we have one of our RICO stations located at Pier 25. So that's that continuous water quality data. I can share a link for that in the chat. But in addition, all of our Tribeca research, which is Pier 26 and north, is adjacent to that. So we're doing, of course, the oyster growth and mortality, but also that community utilization. So the fish, the benthic, and then looking at the epifaunal. So all of those mussels and oysters and other animals that settle on these features, we are building a really strong data set for them. So it's adjacent. It's, these waters are constantly moving, but I think that proximity being just one pier away and representative of this greater area is a nice, perhaps, data set to look at. And then we've also done some control testing specifically around our fish work at other locations. So we have our fish traps at Pier 26 on the south side of the pier, even closer to the area that you're referencing. And so drawing from some of those findings also could be of use.
Great, thanks. If you stick the link in the chat, I'll try and put it in the mix because I don't know if that gets captured on video or not. But thank you.
No problem.
We have a few more questions. We got Jeffrey.
Just briefly, not really a question, a comment. I think this is extraordinary, and thank you for this update. The amount of partners that you have, the scientific findings are remarkable. And I mean, again, congratulations on the eagle and the eel carriers. They're going to be an eagle camera. This is just. And also, I guess I do have a specific question on the north side of Gansevoort, the strings that are over the habitat area. Is that to allow the species to get stronger there, sort of before it can get hunted by the birds? Is that the intention?
Yeah, one of the biggest nuisance to wetland restoration are geese. So they honestly don't even eat the grasses. They just pull them out and cause chaos. So we keep that netting up and then those lines to deter geese from using that area. Anytime you see that netting down, we let us know. It's something we do want to keep intact and are continuously fixing after especially inclement weather and a lot of debris flowing through the river. But yeah, we saw our first bald eagle ever in the park this year. I hope you all caught that right at Gansevoort. And it just speaks to the power of this variety of park space and habitat, but it was incredibly thrilling to see a bird perched at Gansevoort and
Eating
with
an eel.
American eel.
Eating an
Yep.
eel.
Yep.
And Jeffrey, just on the strings, so they are up. We had some break-ins during construction when we had fresh put in our plugs. We had to replant them all. Those strings will go away after when the marsh is mature, which is about 3 years. So once it is established enough, they'll come down. They're not a permanent feature of the park, but we had some jailbreaks.
Rob.
Yeah, I just wanted more of a comment also. Just I got a chance to listen, be part of the meeting this morning, and just want to congratulate Carrie and her team. It's really remarkable how much work and progress you guys have made since the ESMP was approved a few years ago. It's really extraordinary and really kind of fulfills the promise that we all saw in that document. So really congrats. And it was a great meeting this morning and a lot of cool stuff. And just want to second Tammy's point that it just kind of really exemplifies the importance of the sanctuary and what we'd be losing if when those waters are shaded or filled in. Thanks for all that.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
Graham.
When I was looking at the Gainesville Peninsula, the boat launch on the south side in the late summer after it opened, I saw a lot of children wading in the water, which is what I would expect to see on a nice day. And I didn't see any real-time information for parents about the status of that water. And, there's a CSO nearby. I know it doesn't open often, but I think that we need at Gainesville on the south side, given that the boat launch is going to be used that way in the summertime, which is a really good thing. It's good to see 3-year-old kids splashing around on that boat launch. It's just great, right? But and by the way, it's totally natural. It's what kids of that age just want to do when they're close to water. But I think some real-time data. I don't want to scare people. It's a tricky problem. We can bounce it around during the winter. It's a human factors problem as much as anything. But I think it's appropriate.
So actually on our website, on our homepage, there is a link to our real-time water quality data dashboard, which is something we're pretty proud about. In there, particularly for what you're talking about with the CSOs, our team at the River Project actually worked with some outside folks and researchers to come up with a estimate of when there is likely to have been a CSO. We don't actually have the specifics on that. That is under DEP and others, but we do have that sort of estimator. So you actually can get a pretty good sense on the estimated CSO risk. There on the website, any given point, you can look to say that there has been likely ones, over this weekend and others with the rain in going back. So it actually is something that we have, although, as I think we've talked a lot about before, CSOs and those other pieces are actually fall under New York City DEC or DEP, depending on from how you're looking at it.
Deborah?
I really appreciate Graham's comments, and because I know that he's really responsible for getting people under the water, but I also worry that so many people are afraid of the water. So I wouldn't want to make people more afraid of the water than they need to be, just saying. And because I've been in Gansevoort and I've seen how people are afraid of the water, and yeah, so just another thing.
One additional comment is that the river conditions dashboard that Robert was pointing to, I put it in the chat, a link for it, but we're also wanting to bring that into the park, into the wet lab, through a touch screen where people can learn more about it, but see the interpretation of the data. So they're seeing kind of the why behind it and the what they're reading, and then some of the seasonal trends that you can expect. And hopefully this interpretation also can enhance people's knowledge and understanding of when we can be thoughtful about choices in use, but also can, celebrate the immense kind of remarkable changes and improvements it's made over the last few decades.
Any other questions for Carrie? Well, thank you very much, Carrie, for all the wonderful work you're doing. I mimic Jeffrey's and everyone else's compliments to you. So thanks. It's always great having you come and you kind of uplift us in many ways and all the great work you're doing. So thank you.
Carrie, can I keep going?
No, I'm afraid not. I'd like to go back to Carrie. So Carrie, what else? Sorry, yeah, of course, Robert.
All right, I'll try to. I know this was our little guest star here, so I'll try to move quickly through the rest of our report here. As you guys know, this is our first winter season with the Pier 57 Discovery Tank, which means it's one of our first seasons where we were really able to have year-round programming. This is including this year, which is our first really winter field trip season. You guys, folks should know, hudsonriverpark.org/field trips. It's also in the report. We love to help spread the word to schools. We still have some slots open for it. I've circulated about some information on this before. We also have some of our public-facing programs going on. And if you are free Thursday night, I believe we have Painting Nature going on in the Discovery Tank, which hopefully most of you will be busy Thursday night. More of that coming up. So we are excited for it, including if you ever want to stop by our guided galleries, they're also happening. Public programs is well underway. We're planning for next year, and particularly some of our big festivals. This year is our first year with the Gansevoort Field. The first full season is the winter season with it. So we've been able to both expand field time for existing users as well as welcome some new user groups to Hudson River Park. For the winter season, we have 41 different groups who have field permits for over 4,250 hours of field time scheduled throughout the winter season. This is our low point. We've gotten a lot of great comments about Gansevoort, and obviously a lot of questions about coming up. Applications for all of our field permits, which we put them all in together, including Gansevoort, are due on January 15th, and the spring season will kick off on March 11th. So if you guys know of any groups that would like to be here or have field time, they should do that. All of our recurring groups and a lot of our old standbys that you guys are all very familiar with are very familiar with our application process. And then it gives us, so we have to do the Jenga. As I said before, there are different fields that are more appropriate for different sports than others. So we're probably going to be doing some shifting now that we have Gansevoort to try to make sure that we are maximizing the availability and utilization of the fields. For our operations team, I don't know if folks saw, if they are still some up in, I believe, some places. They were able to actually put out some holiday decor out in the park. This is our second year doing it. The Christopher Street Fountain is one of the places. We were also able to do some decorations at all of our dog runs. Dog runs being one of the features of the park that is truly utilized year round. It does not have this quite peak and valley as some of our other features do. And we are looking for a financial sponsor for some of our holiday decorations, try to expand it next year. So if you guys know any corporations or businesses that are interested, I'm happy to take any and all referrals. We think it is something that folks might be able to sponsor and help bring in some support for the park. We know that there are several city DOT light poles that are out that have been reported to us or our team has spotted. We've shared them all with city DOT. I know that we know that they are working on getting them. I guess some of them have taken longer than others. This is something that you may have noticed. If you guys see a light that is out, you should either call 311 where you can report it. If you know it is a city light, you can also report it directly to us at our operations 24/7 operations desk or info@hudsonriverpark.org. Make sure to include a description of where where it is, where you saw it, and we can figure it out. It's somewhere between us and the highway, Route 9A. There are lights that are owned by Hudson River Park and City DOT, and I believe some other agencies as well. So we are always happy to try to sort out whose light is whose for you. We are also prepared for snow maintenance. Obviously, the snow this past weekend missed New York City, but we have all of our equipment staged throughout the park to be able to try to address it as quickly as possible. As folks know, and we've talked about before, Friends runs our incredibly successful volunteer program. And I just some end of the year numbers for you. We had over 3,000 volunteers at 115 events, with resulting in more than 9,000 volunteer hours as to help take care of our park. We planted more than 40,000 bulbs, 6,000 plants, and 15 new trees with our volunteer program. That does not include all the stuff that some of our team did directly, or some of the new spaces. And we processed over 120,000 pounds of food waste from our community collection points throughout the park, all of which returns back to the park as compost. So it's been a really successful year for a volunteer program. I know Friends is particularly proud, and we are incredibly grateful. We would not be able to keep the park looking as it does without their efforts. On public safety, we had reported before that we have been trying to partner with precincts along the park to do joint enforcements for the bikeway, and trying to help get NYPD here to do it. On Friday, February 5th, we were able to work. PEP was able to work with the NYPD 6th precinct that's in the village, and they to be out there to focus on motorbikes on the Greenway. So this is not necessarily e-bikes in the way, but particularly the ones that true motors that are on there. And they issued 9 summonses on the bikeway and did a lot of education for folks on e-bikes and others along with it.
When was that, Robert? I thought you said February.
Friday, January 5th.
Okay, thanks. Sorry.
And which it is also in the report if you want to pull it from there. We've had some difficulty, particularly with scheduling some of these. The NYPD has a lot of demands placed on it, current events, either some worldwide ones that are resulting in any number of protests, as well as some of the migrant deposits happening here in New York City and the influx of pieces. So we are having difficulty, but we are continuing to try to work with our precincts on getting those on the books. On December 17th at 2 a.m. As part of our routine patrols going through it, PEP officers observed a robbery in progress on the western end of Pier 84. This is one of the instances in which PEP was able to do some really great work. The perpetrators fled, and after brief pursuit, the officers caught one of them. As they were attempting to take that person into custody, a second perpetrator attacked them from behind. One of them was captured and turned over to the Midtown North, and unfortunately, 2 of them did flee the scene unapprehended. Nobody sustained serious injuries, and we were able to provide some pretty substantial evidence to the NYPD, which is undertaking the investigation from there. So I don't have any updates on where it ended, but I just wanted to give a shout out to some of PEP's great work on doing that. It was just a routine patrol and happened to catch it in progress after the park was closed after park hours. I also know, and I know this is an area that AC had been interested in before, during winter months, PEP participates in the citywide effort known as Code Blue. And so that's when there are inclement weather. There's a series of conditions below 32 degrees, strong winds, extended periods of cold, periods of cold after a warm section. Officers go out and check known locations for where homeless individuals have a tendency to congregate or be, to do welfare checks, offer support and resources. And sometimes it's moving folks out of the park. Other times it is medical assistance and others. We do know There are certain portions of the park where homeless individuals have a tendency to settle, and we actually PEP has been able to help get some folks who were willing to accept medical assistance. So even so far this winter, so it is one of the times where we are grateful to have PEP. They are part of the citywide continuum of care for this. So they work directly with the Department of Homeless Services and others, and the services and support that folks can get in any park, and they are also able to get here in Hudson River Park as part of that. So being able to link into those resources is one of the reasons why we appreciate being able to bring PEP in here. Up next, I'm moving over to some more real estate pieces. I sent it in the email, and I want to flag on Thursday. We're going to be going to Manhattan Community Board 4's Waterfront Parks and Environment Committee. And I'm sorry, I struggle because CB2 calls it, CB1 and CB2 also call it different things. And so I stumble over it every time, but Waterfront Parks and Environment, and we're going to be talking about Pier 76. This is a follow-up from the Pier 76 task force process, of which I also shared and are posted online on our website some of the summary documents that came out of it. They go through, it's an attempt to try to synthesize memorial information discussed as part of that process and be able to share it out to a wider audience. We want to be able to sort of broaden this conversation, having had it with some key stakeholders. The documents are only intended to support the next steps for the conversations. They are not by any means definitive. They are not a plan. They are not anything specific. They are a compendium of ideas and discussions and trying to reflect that piece as we start trying to come up with what that plan will be. There are 3 documents. I won't go into them unless folks would like me to, but we hope everyone gets a chance to take a look, read through them. We're always here if you have questions, and join us for the conversation at CB4. As we have found in other places, and Dan's Wharton in particular, but some other places, having sort of one larger community conversation where folks are able to hear each other is really important, and we really want to make sure that your voices are included as part of this process, along with CB4 and sort of the wider community. So I sent you guys all the information on how to get onto the CB4 one. I believe they also do it largely remote, and I hope you will join us. I will pause there if there are questions, so there might be on this one.
I don't see any questions.
I will keep moving. Also upcoming, folks have known we've had the Pier 40 Marine Operator RFP has been out. We reported this last fall, and we went and talked to CB2's Parks and Waterfront Committee about it. It is part of the state procurement process. We have to RFP these things, and the previous operator's permit had going up. We have not finalized a selection as of yet, but I can tell you a couple of pieces. We received 9 proposals, which was, we thought, an actually pretty robust response. New York City DEC is doing, I believe, some repairs on its docks in the next couple of years. And so there were some operators, more operators than we perhaps expected, who were really looking for new homes. Hornblower did not resubmit as part of this. We can't necessarily say why. We do have a suspicion that some of the pieces that had caused some problems with cornucopia and them having to have them as part under theirs, and that agreement with the Attorney General, and which also led to some of the issues that we talked about last time we had this conversation. Part of it.
When is Hornblower going to be leaving the North Dock? Or
yes.
What's the date of that?
I know that they are wrapping up some final pieces, I believe, but their full term, I believe, ended at the end of the year.
Oh.
So they are out. They're moving out. I think they are in the process of gathering their belongings and going.
Okay, thanks.
We will I hope everyone here will, when we have our new operator, I'll help welcome them to the park community. There'll be a new one of you as part of it, and we have promised Community Board 2's Waterfront Parks and Waterfront Committee that we would also bring them back to them, and they'll have some other pieces, liquor license and that sort of thing, to the boats. We will. I'll be sure to share more information on that when we can, and hopefully have them also come to one of our future meetings as one of our new community members. And finally, we're pleased to share that in December, Pier 57 received its third Significant Preservation Award, this time from the Preservation League of New York. It has also received Landmarks Conservancy's Lucy G. Moses Award, as well as recognition from New York State Office of Historic Preservation. It's one of our historic piers in the park, and we're thrilled to be able to see it so recognized. And with that, that is the end of my report. Questions?
Thank you, Robert. Any questions? Mary.
Hi there. Now that Pier 97 is nearly complete, are you going back to the historic vessel operators that applied under the RFEI to find someone to fill the berth there?
I'm not sure. I will check to see what we are planning to do on that. But I don't think we have a plan as yet, as far as I've heard. But it's certainly something. You are correct that it is time for us to start considering it.
Thanks.
Any other questions? If not, I'm going to hand it over to Jeffrey, who's going to give us a membership report. In the agenda, you'll have seen a copy of our bylaws, and you'll see that January is the first month that we look at community members in good standing, but I'll let Jeffrey take over as our vice chair in charge of the membership committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everybody. A couple of things to report on tonight, which I don't have my notes in front of me, so let me just do that really quickly. I was just texting my partner because I haven't had a Zoom meeting in a very long time because all CB meetings have been in person. So I'm back to readjusting at my desk. So a couple of things as provided by the bylaws and which was shared in the agenda. Membership committee needs to notify and also get confirmation from folks who are not in compliance with our attendance requirements, whether or not they want to stay on the board. We'll be sending out notification after this meeting to everyone to serve as notice about that. And it'll be a very quick, straightforward form to reply to. It's only going to go to the main point of contact that we have. So that way we try not to get double entries for each individual member. There are a number of members who were not in compliance with our attendance requirements in 2023. I'm not reporting on who those are this evening because I want to find out if they are indeed interested in staying on the advisory council going forward. If they are, we'll have an internal discussion through the membership committee and exec as to whether or not we're okay with them continuing and if we can get them to do better about their attendance. And sorry, I'm just checking my notes again. Just to note that going forward, to sort of have some better record keeping, we're going to make some tweaks to the attendance sheet. So there's better consistency. For example, I'm going to develop a drop-down menu so that way I can pick Manhattan Community Board 4, Daniel can pick Community Board 2, Alan can pick Chelsea Waterside Park Association, as opposed to, is Alan going to put CWPA this time, or is he going to write out Chelsea Waterside Park Association next time? Sorry, Alan, I saw you first, so that's why I put you out there. Just for consistency, frankly, it just makes sorting the spreadsheets and reviewing all this stuff a lot easier. That is the key factor of the report this evening. There will be more on attendance and applications at our next meeting.
Do you anticipate openings, Jeffrey?
I don't think so. I'll be honest. I think that some of the folks that didn't show up, one, I think they probably had good reason, and two, I think we would still want them to be members. And so I think that nobody has been not attending out of malice or just that we don't like them. I think people have been genuinely trying to participate. Happy to have a more tight-knit conversation on that too, and just hear from anybody if based on the response to whether or not folks are going to stay on. I think will also indicate that there will be, but I haven't seen or heard any indication that anybody does want to step off at this time.
And the reason I ask that is recruitment. So in other words, we're not putting the pedal down to recruit folks. It seems as though we would like to retain folks.
I think that is a correct summation.
Okay. Terrific. Does anybody have any questions about the committee's approach? What happens next? Any other questions for Jeffrey? All right. Thank you so much for your report, Jeffrey.
Of course. Thanks, everybody.
And thanks for working on that forum. I know there
And
are
also, it's like you create a form and you think it's right, and then a year goes by and you realize all the things that are wrong with it. So
I wish I could help you with Google Forms. That's not my forte. And I probably was responsible for some of the errors, so I'll take full responsibility.
No, Dan, I'll save you that. That's my form. I'll save you that knife. But we had no form prior to, so
I appreciate that my fellow co-chairs and chairs, we all are willing to fall on knives for each other over this. So thank you.
But I can't agree more that as we develop, I definitely think that we can improve things as we go forward. So thank you.
And so as our next topic of discussion is basically setting up ideas that we want Tammy to take off on when she assumes the chair if she does assume the chair in April. And I would want to know if anybody in the AC wants to speak up and let us know what issues are important to them, what we haven't been discussing, any community organizations that we may want to invite. I, for one, actually, Tracy, I did speak to Open Plans, Sarah Lind, and I'm actually speaking to one of their other, I guess, urban planning experts, or I don't know how to advocates. And because so many of our conversations have been spoken about the Greenway and how there are all these e-bikes, and they've done studies and they understand how to keep pedestrians and cyclists safe. I thought it might be a good idea. They're coming to the community board, but also maybe come to the advisory council, even though it doesn't have so much to do with the park, but you could help us maybe better understand the Greenway and options that we might be able to provide for 9A. I mean, does that sound like something that folks would be interested? I have not formally invited them, but I wanted to just hear from the advisory council, see if anybody would be interested in hearing from Open Plans. Jeffrey's giving me the thumbs up. So I'm going to take that as overwhelming. Oh, do you have a question, or is that hand up there?
I have a vote to pursue this, yes.
So yeah, in the next couple of months, I'm going to have a follow-up meeting. Myself and Shirley Secunda, who's the chair of Traffic Transportation, they're going to come to a CB2. We're going to hear it, and then I can maybe better filter it, funnel it towards what we would like to hear. So specifically on how we can make the Greenway a safer place. All right, that's my idea. Does anybody else have anything else they would like to speak about? I know we spoke about signage in the past. We bring things up as they come along. Okay, Graham, I'd love you to talk a little bit about that. If you want to just get on and give us a summary on why it's important to swim in the Hudson River and why. Go ahead, the floor is yours.
Things going on, kind of important. Governor Hochul put out a press release last week about plus pool, which I know Tammy's thrilled, but I hate. I think the plus pool is the ultimate non-swimming in New York Harbor. It's a filtered swimming pool. It's terrible. It doesn't scale. But Governor Hochul, that's her plan for the whole state. So, which is another way of saying no swimming in the Hudson for the foreseeable future. However, there is a challenge coming up, which is in Paris. They're having the Olympics. You may be aware. They have committed $1.5 billion to cleaning up the Seine River, and they are building 20 swim locations on the Seine River for Parisians to go swimming in that river. And some people are going to question how come in New York City we spent 10 times as much as what the Parisians have cleaning up our harbor, and we have no swimming. So that question may come up, and I may bring it up, right? And of course, Governor Hochul has basically just recently said, forget about swimming, basically. her money is on swimming pools, floating pools. So I think it would be good for New York City to do something during the Paris Olympics that got real people swimming in the Hudson River. Downtown Boathouse doesn't want to do it unless some elected official tells us to do it. You find an elected official, we might negotiate. Clearly, Governor Hochul is not that official. Don't think the mayor is either. All is.
Yeah, it was actually, I think, an article today in the Times about it, right? With images, whatnot.
It's interesting
Yeah.
because, sorry, I'm a fan of plus pools until we get the water fully, figured out. But the DEC and DEP was looking at ways to reclassify the Hudson for swimming south, around New York City, which is because just above us you can swim in the Hudson and just below us. So the question, I guess, is maybe we should consider having them come and talk to us about what their plan is based on the public hearings that they did early 2023. I mean, that kind of addresses Graham's and potentially the topic of plus pools, which, quite frankly, don't know where they're going to go, but it could just as be, wouldn't be surprised if Robert Atterbury says, guess who called us?
Deborah? You're on mute, Deborah?
Hi. Oh, yeah, I love the idea of opening up the Hudson for swimming. I will point out that water quality is not the only issue. Current is another important issue.
Okay.
Possibly the Seine doesn't have.
Graham, is that true in all areas of the Hudson?
Oh, Seine has currents.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, you probably know more than I do.
That was one of their challenges. They tried doing it in the canals of Paris, and the fact that there were no currents in the canals means that the water didn't clean quickly enough. The Hudson is distinct that it has currents going both ways. What is peculiar about Hudson Park is that slack tide and low tide are not concurrent. They are offset by a couple of hours. But that is not, in embayments, that's not a showstopper.
Just to echo Deborah on this one, as we talked about last time, with the gentleman who was washed into the pipe and had to be rescued from it. I flag that one specifically because, as Deborah said, it's not just tides or currents. There's a lot going on beyond simply water quality for safety.
I'm just pointing out the political contrast that will be made this summer between, normally it doesn't matter what happens in Europe versus America because they're different, but this may be different. This may show up.
I'm all in favor of trying to make it possible.
So just wanted to add a couple of things. One is, and would certainly echo, the point that folks are making that it's not really about water quality. I mean, the water in the Hudson's safe to swim most days if it's not raining, but there's a lot of management concerns. But I will say that, to Graham's point, I think there is an opportunity to provide the means of swimming in the Hudson and the harbor. The governor's proposal, while Plus Pool got the attention, includes a lot of other provisions in it, including a fair amount of money for non-traditional swimming beaches that are not Plus Pool, and as well as, to her credit, money for swim lessons and swim safety and traditional pools to help New Yorkers, get into the water safely and enjoy it. So we've been working with Plus Pool and other folks on trying to reform the permitting process for bathing beaches in New York State. And it's something that New York City DOH just recently revised the conditions for their permit, in part, I think, to accommodate Plus Pool, but it's something that'll help other site managers, if they were so inclined, to provide safe, have their bathing beach areas permitted by the state and the city, which is what's required. But again, I don't want to minimize the managerial, complications of this, but as we've all experienced, people line up for hours to get in this pool. So it's clearly a public service that there's not enough of, and the Hudson Harbor might provide that opportunity for folks.
So, okay, we should continue this, and as information comes up about swimming in the Hudson, it's a topic that we should consider for 2024. We should continue to discuss it. Is there another topic aside from swimming and Greenway? Is anything maybe Mary that you thought about for safety that you wanted to discuss in 2024?
I don't have anything specific. I definitely pay a lot of attention to the news related to bike safety and pedestrian safety across the city. I did see some numbers. There also seems to be better collection of data, which is what we have long wanted. And I just saw something that for the past year, for the first time, deaths on bicycles surpassed deaths of pedestrians, although they said part of that is because of traffic calming measures that made it safer for pedestrians. Anyway, I think we'll keep an eye on it and see if something jumps out, but it continues to be a concern as it has long been.
Yeah, there's an interesting daily podcast about why pedestrian deaths are so much higher in the US than Europe, and it has to do with only less than 10% of our cars are stick shifts, and 80% are stick shifts in Europe. And you can operate a phone and drive a car in the US, and you can't do that in Europe. And so,
two-handed operation, yes.
yeah, so maybe we should just turn everybody, if everybody is driving a stick shift, they wouldn't be able to be on their phones. But there is interesting. The one thing I wanted to ask Robert is, I know we've been increasing the number of cameras for safety purposes up and down the park. Are we seeing an expansion of that? Is we seeing that working? Is that helping?
So we have continuously expanded our network on both as part of, particularly right now, we're working on some of our new park spaces and expanding in those areas and increasing coverage in some areas that we thought were necessary. It is, it's an ongoing effort. I will say, we had that incident, a couple of incidents so far, and we were able to last year, and we were able to produce a pretty significant amount of high quality visuals for the NYPD to be able to turn people over to help them. Cameras are not a preventative measure, but they are able to help when something happens, help try to address it as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm. Great. Anything else? Anything else that folks would like to concentrate on in 2024? Otherwise, we can move on to new and old business, which I do not have. This is kind of my new and old business. So yes, of course.
I'm just curious with one question. What is the status of building the thoroughfare through Chelsea Piers that was part of the contract renewal of the lease renewal? Is that on the schedule? Is that anything in the planning phase? Is that something we see more of in 2024?
It is certainly something we can try to set up a time with them for them to be able to come and give an update on. They are still in the planning stage on it. I know they have moved on some of the items that they talked about as part of that leasing process. I think particularly some of the green measures. If memory serves, they were able to make some advances on the solar panel pieces and things like that. There is, as you mentioned, that the extension of the Esplanade on the southern piece and the opening that and sort of enhancing that walkway. That is still in the planning stages, but I know we've been actively talking to them about it. So we can get you guys a fuller update and try to set up in the coming months for a time for them to come give you guys a full update.
Thank you.
All right, terrific. Any other comments, questions? Yes, Tracy, of course.
Hi, sorry, I have a cartoon on in the background with my son, so I hope you can hear me okay. I just wanted to, I don't have anything specific other than Happy New Year, everybody. But to also ask whether in 2024 we want to take another look at our equity, diversity, and inclusion committee work. Maybe a time for a check-in. I feel like it's been a while since we've had a conversation about some of the work that we did under Michael's leadership, and I just wanted to raise that to see if it's something we want to put on an agenda in the coming months. Thanks.
I'll just to echo that, it may, particularly as you guys are looking at membership, it may be a good time to connect those two conversations.
Yes, I think we all agree that Michael does too. So let's at least plan on maybe twice a year having a DEI discussion. We got the tools last year around this time from a presentation, and it would be great to continue on with those methods.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm happy to sketch out something.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks.
Everybody's giving thumbs up on that. And then anything else before I move on to the last bit, which would be our next meeting, which would be the second Tuesday in February. I'd like to hold a meeting in February. I'd like to do it mirror what we're hoping to do in January. We'll take a look at the weather. If it's not a big snowstorm or rainstorm, plan for a little social afterwards at Harlem Hops. And they had everything planned for us. They're putting out tables, and Natalie, thanks so much for introducing her to me, and we'll get it going again. So
That's February 13th.
That's right, February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day. So I'm hoping that we can do it in person and just bring in the winter, I guess, and just get to see each other in an informal social gathering after a 1 hour and 15-minute meeting. Hopefully we'll start again at 6, and then by 7:15 forward, we can move on to socializing.
The 13th is Mardi Gras.
I won't be in New Orleans. You gonna be in New Orleans? We can make it a Mardi Gras.
Yeah, you can celebrate Fat Tuesday anywhere.
Okay. Well, we can make it a theme. Okay. So everybody can wear beads, and I'll bring plenty.
Actually, I have a supply of beads. We once had a Mardi Gras party at Lilac, so I'll bring a basket of beads.
You might need to be the party, planner. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. If you haven't signed in, it's not too late to sign into the attendance sheet. It's still up there. You scroll back. If you haven't signed in, please do sign in. And thanks everybody for all your work on the advisory council, and I'll see you next month. Do I have a motion to end the meeting?
Motion to adjourn at 7:09.
There we go. Second AC, and thank you very much. Everybody have a great evening. Stay dry.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.